We are thrilled to be working in partnership with the South West Ambulance Service Trust in this groundbreaking project. It's the first collaboration of its kind and is making such a huge difference to people living with cancer in the South West. Macmillan Cancer Support is providing over £1 million worth of funding to deliver this project over 4 years.
The project for SWAST is very important. It links a partnership with Macmillan and South Western Ambulance Service, something that's never been done before. It's quite groundbreaking in that sense.
It was Macmillan's idea. They spotted that the ambulance service was one area that hadn't been involved in developing cancer care. But quite apart from that, I think the bringing together of our team with all our sort of different areas of expertise and knowledge is a great opportunity.
Nobody's really looked into the needs of cancer patients, particularly from an ambulance service perspective. And actually what we're learning is there is a real need. If patients call out of hours, generally the person that comes to treat them is going to be an ambulance clinician or a paramedic working for an ambulance service.
Paramedics are compassionate about clinical care. They just want to do the best they can for patients. So if we're offering more tools, whether that be educational tools, underpinning knowledge, more pharmacy, drugs and so on, they'll just embrace it. Ultimately, if they can keep a patient at home happy, so they're being treated in the right place, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They don't see that as an imposition, they see that as part and parcel of their responsibility. That's why they joined the ambulance service.
As a paramedic, end-of-life care I find quite a difficult concept sometimes, as my role I see primarily as life-saving, but through the project I've recognised that part of my role is also trying to facilitate a good death for patients where life-saving interventions are no longer an option.
I was called out to a patient. The family were exceptionally anxious, felt they couldn't cope and wanted her to go to hospital. On speaking to the patient, her absolute wishes were that she didn't want to go to hospital, she didn't want to go to a hospice, she wanted to die in the comfort of her own home. I gave her something to stop the vomiting, which made her comfortable. And then it was more about trying to express her wishes to her family and having a conversation between the family and the patient about what we were going to do for her care. But I did liaise with the GP. We got syringe drivers arranged to come in for the same night, and it just felt like everything sort of worked together. And by the time I left, the family were sort of thanking us and were really grateful. They were happy that their mum was staying at home and that her wishes had been adhered to. Whereas before, I think I would have not had the confidence to make that decision, and I really feel that paramedics should be making those decisions to help patients and give them the right care when it's needed.
A situation where I was able to put this learning into practice was a job I attended to where the family had called 999. This patient had had a rapid deterioration in their condition of terminal cancer, and they didn't know how to handle it, they didn't know what to do. There were end-of-life care drugs on scene. I delivered the drugs. I was also more confident to have a conversation with this family about what was the best way forward. I didn't feel this patient had a lot of time. The family were very distressed and they didn't realise this was going to happen so quickly. We gave the drugs and he became more comfortable, and we held hands with the patient and the patient's family as the patient died. Before the project, I think I would have found that a very difficult, very emotional situation, but even though it was emotional and very upsetting, I walked away feeling confident that we had done the right thing for that patient.
We were called to an 80-year-old lady because she was incredibly breathless. Her daughter was at home and was primary carer for her. The lady was unfortunately palliative. Her wishes were to stay at home. Her position in bed wasn't quite as it should have been. We were able to, with the assistance of the daughter, move her into a more comfortable position in a chair where she could sit more upright. That relaxed her breathlessness, and we also found that she had some just-in-case medication that was prescribed to her for situations where she became anxious and breathless. So with a very quick consultation with an out-of-hours doctor who completely agreed with that course of action, we gave her 2 medications and we were able to leave her at home in the comfort of her home, and she wasn't breathless anymore.
The patient I visited was called to in the early hours of the morning, who requires all care at home and also has a do not resuscitate order in place as well. Part of that order did mean that he was able to go to hospital if we felt that was necessary. By the time his wife had called us, the patient was obviously very unwell, and through the knowledge and experience I've gained through the Cancer Care Development Programme, I was able to recognise that this patient was in his last few hours of life, and through the compassionate conversations training was able to address these issues with the patient's wife and his family, and we came up with a plan to leave him at home and treat him at home.
We have pretty much trained all of the specialist paramedics and upskilled them not only in the clinical features but also in communications, which we know is a key aspect of this type of work, and being able to have those more complex, difficult conversations.
I feel a lot more comfortable in managing end-of-life care symptoms at home, listening to patients' wishes, understanding their sort of ideas, concerns, their expectations.
I've gained more knowledge, I suppose, I didn't have before, and confidence in dealing with palliative patients.
Throughout the whole of the SWAST area, there will always be somebody available 24 hours a day to help patients at end of life with symptom relief.
If I'm confident in what I do and the ways I can alleviate suffering, it reflects well on the situation as a whole and helps people face the future, however long that might be, with more certainty, I think.
It's something that I think that will be taken up by other ambulance services across the country, because the main aim is to ensure that the patient gets the right level of care at the right place at the right time. But also the main aim is to keep people out of hospital, because so many people end up in hospital that are end of life care that don't want to be there. So it's important for a number of reasons.